At the beginning of the movie, we see a dark-haired figure in a white dress submerged underwater. Two young girls in blue dresses are sitting near the waterfall, trying to see something in the white spray. One of them, named Sela, frightens her friend, after which they both laugh uproariously. The heroine helps Tamara up, and together they walk carefully over the rocks. Many sheep graze in the sunshine on the high mountain meadows as the girls make their way through the shrubbery. Nearby, two women dressed in blue hang identical blue and red dresses between the trees. Young girls in identical clothes frolic around small houses. Near these dwellings, nestled under the crowns of pine trees, sit women embroidering, singing, and doing various household chores. Almost all of them are dressed in red dresses. Younger girls in blue ride on swings and run around the neighborhood. Jesus is painted on the houses and trees around the village. It is time for the meal. The women in red and the girls in blue are seated across from each other, with their shepherd sitting at the head of the table. The man calls the older half wives and the younger half, dressed in blue, daughters. After the meal, the shepherd thanks everyone for their time and passes by the wives. The man chooses one of them and invites her to follow him. Sela and the other girls watch with interest. Before going to bed, everyone says prayers, thanking the shepherd for the day. At night, the heroine lies awake for a long time, looking at the wooden figures of sheep. In the morning, the half-dressed shepherd lets his wife go, kissing her goodbye on the forehead. Another pregnant girl also comes out of his hut. The man standing nearby is often glanced at by Sela. After a while, all the women go to the preaching place, wearing white robes. The shepherd reminds them that they have all come to him broken by the horrors of the outside world. With mute admiration and tears flowing, Sela watches the man delivering a heartfelt speech. The shepherd washes his hands with a dark red liquid taken from a small lamb and asks the women to stand in a circle. As if in a trance, the wives and daughters ask the shepherd to come down and fill them with himself while the man colors their faces with the liquid. His touch makes many girls scream and cry, shaking as if in a fever. Standing in the center, the shepherd is imbued with this incredible power. After the prayer, the heroine stands in the woods and watches the man. Sela asks her friend to go and check on Mary so she can be alone with the shepherd. The man walks with the heroine and says that she is beautiful, just like her mother. Sela asks to tell her again about the woman and their acquaintance. The shepherd keeps repeating how beautiful the heroine's hair is, touching a released strand with his fingers. The man then leaves, telling one of the wives to braid Sela's hair. Left alone, the heroine smiles, feeling strangely connected to and attracted to the shepherd. A few hours later, one of the young wives, Eloise, who had been invited by the shepherd yesterday, recounts the experience. Sela and another girl listen with rapt attention to the account of this act, which according to the wife, resembles a healing. Eloise was most impressed by the man holding her and repeating that she was perfect and loved. Sela imitates the girl, much to her friend's dismay. She reminds the heroine that one must not speak to the wife in such a way, and promises to tell the man about this transgression. The quarrel is interrupted by the appearance of another woman. The wife scolds Sela for the transgression and asks her to take the leftovers to the hut. Feeling unjustly offended, the heroine shouts at the geese. Walking along the riverbank, the heroine sees the remains of a bird with worms swarming in it. Sela reaches a small hut far away from the village and enters the darkness. Inside, the heroine sees a woman in white robes lying on the floor. Sela decides to approach her when a voice calls out to her. Sarah comes out of the darkness and picks up a small plate of food. She says that the woman lying on the floor is fasting to wash away the sin of her womanly days. Sela confirms that it is indeed necessary to do so, to wash away Eve's transgression before God. Sarah is skeptical of the heroine's words and warns that soon she herself will have to suffer like this and spend time in the cabin. The woman warns that they will see each other again when Sela grows up and begins to bear Eve's sin. Once outside, the heroine is angry and takes her emotions out on the stones by the river. In the evening, the girls are getting ready for bed. Eloise's daughter Lily asks for a story to tell her. However, the wife reminds her that only the shepherd can tell them. Sela puts Lily to bed and watches her while Eloise returns to the shepherd. Sitting on the windowsill, the heroine looks at his house with slight envy. The next day, Sela lies sadly on the fallen leaves, thinking of the flock in the meadow. The wives wash the shepherd and warn him that new sheep will soon arrive. Afterward, Sela learns that the man has entrusted her with an important task. The wives reason that birth is the most important and sacred process. Sela goes up to the flock and observes it. the heroine falls asleep and soon realizes that the sheep have gone. Near the rocks, she sees an animal that has given birth. The lamb is devoid of wool and looks very frightening. Sarah comes to her senses and realizes that she has become a woman. In fear, the heroine screams and then tries to come to terms with her fate. Before going to bed, Sela tells her friend what happened. When the heroine wakes up, she realizes that one of the lambs has been attacked by a wild dog. At the same time, Sela sees a fantasy where she herself attacks the cub. When the wife heard what had happened, she sent for the shepherd. The man put the heroine to rest and asked her to go to church to pray. Sela cries, believing that forgiveness is even worse than punishment. The next day, the heroine sees a sheep breathing heavily and approaches it on all fours. From the window, Sela is watched by the shepherd. At night, the heroine cannot sleep because of the noise and goes out into the hallway. Sela sees a policeman talking to the shepherd. The entire settlement is given 2 days to leave. In the morning, the shepherd gives the sad news to the wives and daughters. The man falls to the ground and then says that they will soon have a new home. The women joyfully pick him up and carry him on their hands. Sela is sad in the place of prayer, not wanting to leave her home. The shepherd comforts her and tells her that they will surely find a new place. The man relies on Sela, believing her to be the purest in her faith. Together with the sheep and women, the shepherd wanders through the sullen forest. In the evening, the congregation makes a halt. All, except Sarah, have dinner sitting by a bright fire. In the night, the heroine wakes up and looks outside with horror. In her nightmares, she sees 2 women submerged in water and a shepherd holding a small lamb in his arms. The man does horrible things to it with a knife. Sela stands in the middle of the forest wearing a white dress with a red stain. The next day, the congregation continues their journey. They decide to make a rest stop at an abandoned house. Sela looks with interest at a painting hanging on the wall. It depicts a lake surrounded by high mountains. The shepherd gets angry when he sees the girls go inside. Sela wonders why they can't stay here. The man explains that this is an unhappy place made by unhappy people. Tents are pitched around the house. At night, Sela sits by the fire, peering at the man through the flames. The heroine does decide to enter the house when everyone is asleep. Sela is looking at a painting when one of the girls appears next to her. The heroine sees the gruesome bruises on her neck. In the morning, Sela feels sick and goes into the woods. The heroine is angry at the sheep and then notices a smiling Sarah beside her. In the tent, Sela carefully tries to hide the fact that she has become a woman. One of the daughters notices this and screams exhaustedly. Sela continues on her journey, staying in the distance with Sarah. During a rest stop, the heroine learns that the shepherd cut the woman's hair off for vanity. He now calls her a broken thing. Sarah reveals that she got into the congregation at the same time as the heroine's mother. The mercy of the shepherd warmed them at first, but then became simply scalding and unbearable. Sarah tells another secret. It turns out that Sela's mother did not die during childbirth, as everyone was told. The woman had gotten an infection, but the man didn't take her to the hospital, saying it was a test of her faith. During the journey, it appears to Sela that she is sitting with Shepherd and her mother in the car. At dinner, the heroine sees a man watching her very closely. At night, Sarah tells that the shepherd is counting the days until Sela's wifely days are over. The woman recalls that when she was a favorite wife, she would sometimes escape into the woods, feeling strangely anxious and restless, wanting to be alone. The next day, the congregation sets out on the road again. Sela is authorized to go again with the others. Suddenly, a serious obstacle arises. Pregnant Eloise begins to feel contractions. In the course of labor, the girl dies. Lily doesn't want to leave her mother's side, and Shepherd pulls her away. Sarah blames the man for what happened to Eloise. The next day, Sela sees that the woman is not coming with them. Sarah says she took Eloise's baby and asks her to remember that there is only one ram in the flock. Along the way, the shepherd pensively stops. Tamara suggests going to the right as she saw something there. The man beats her and calls her a worthless person. The exhausted wives and daughters find shelter by the lake that the heroine saw in the painting. Sela feels herself beginning to become disillusioned with her leader. It is at the lake that the shepherd baptizes the daughters, turning them into wives. During the ritual, Sela sees various visions. At night, the shepherd approaches the tent and calls the heroine to him. When Sela enters his dwelling, the man asks her to unbraid her hair. She ends up staying with him until morning. Morning comes. Tamara notices that all the wives have disappeared somewhere. On the shore of the lake, the girls see the shepherd. The man says that the lake swallowed the wives and gave them eternal life so that the daughters could become new wives. One of the girls begins crying for her mother and rushes to her dress on the shore. When a man asks Selah to come over, she declares that he is not their shepherd. Soon the police find the remains of the wives in the river and a beaten shepherd in the woods with the horns of a sheep on his head. The daughters return to their dwelling near the waterfall, and Selah becomes their shepherd. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like, write in the comments what you think about this movie, and see you in new videos.